Okay. Chris, people can follow you at Detroit Beastie. I love that Twitter handle.
Thank you. That's Detroit is the city where I was born and raised. Lived 20 minutes north of there, and Beastie is my cat's name. So I put it together. I think I made the Twitter handle in haste, and it came out to be pretty good on the other end.
Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing right now. I know you've written for sites. You're big in the daily fantasy community. How did that all start?
Well, it was just not to be corny, but it was like I was on a never-ending quest a few years ago for daily fantasy sports content, playing on FanDuel constantly, hockey season, baseball season, and I could never find content the way I thought it should be, if that makes any
Yes.
sense, right? I wanted it a certain way, the way my brain thinks and the way my brain works or operates. I wanted something a set way, and I couldn't find much like that. So I decided to make my own content, and over the years, it's been a slow grind, obviously, but it's picked up the pace here, and I got some major momentum behind me now, eight weeks into this season.
I'll tell you what, once you start doing this, it is, and I don't know if it's all about the money anymore. I mean, it's competition, but I absolutely love it. And it's hard for me,
Yeah.
football, to do season long anymore.
Oh, I'm with you. And here's the thing: money has never been my motivator. I'm not rich now, and I'm
Yep.
surely not going to get rich writing this stuff. Like you said, it's the competition and the relationships that we're building and forming are more important to me than money. Like us, we just came across each other
Yeah.
on a Facebook video, right? I
Yes.
said, "This is great. I love what you're doing." You reached out to me, and bam, here we are on a Wednesday afternoon. So it's more so the relationships and the sharing content and helping others that I like best. Because again, let's be honest here, we're not getting rich writing God DFS stuff.
No. And I think I try to talk about this in some of my videos. I know that there's negative parts of this DFS and sharks and all that. And that people have to understand those guys are putting in, I mean, I see what they're spending in a weekend.
They have unlimited bankroll,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and as you said, that's what they do for a living. But not to sound like an egomaniac or like, oh, look at him. I've been playing on FanDuel since its inception, as I said, since 2012. So I'm no shark. I've never spent tens of thousands of dollars in a weekend overall in my lifetime, sure, but there's a lot of ways to get around
Yeah.
sharks and that kind of behavior, and just get your piece of the pie. I mean, I've won big tournaments, but as it stands now, I just want a piece of the pie, and I have a nice little system that I
Yeah.
use personally.
Yeah. I have that written down. Number one, you have to form your process, how you get to where you're at. I try to tell people simple. You want the answers to the questions. The questions that are
Without doing
asking,
the homework.
yeah, is the implied totals. I think I never used to even look at that. You have to. If you are looking at the games and you don't form what you think the score is going to be, then how the heck are you picking your players, right? Do you think that's a
No
good
doubt.
approach?
Yeah, and you're right. Oh, absolutely. I'm big into team implied totals. Over unders will tell you a lot because those over unders are they're made by professionals in Las Vegas. And last
Yeah.
time I checked, Vegas is pretty damn good at what they do. And the old saying, the house always wins. So those are few of the things that I use. And as I told you earlier, we had a conversation like in a chat on Twitter, and everybody has to have their own process, as you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
So I can sell lineups till I'm blue in the face. I could push what I'm trying to do until I'm blue in the face, but that's only really putting a band-aid on the issue. Everybody has to find their own individual process that works for them. What works for me might not work for you. What works for you, so it just goes on and on down the line. So it would be someone find kind of made their own way. Let's say I can only do so much, just like push you along.
What are some of your big things that's in your Bible?
Oh, in my Bible, okay, it's around here somewhere. Here's one of them. It's my little Bible.
That's
I have
awesome.
another one here. I can break it out before we're done. But yeah, these pages are covered from front to back. I've had this one for about 5 years. My other one is like, if God forbid my house was ever on fire, I'd probably grab the cat first, and then I'd grab my two fantasy sports Bibles that I've written myself. So as we were talking, we could pull the curtain back a little bit to people that will watch this. I get in, I enter all week, enter dollar games and $2 games, only the 3-man contests. So I'm not playing these massive 500,000 entry contests, right? Those are where the sharks swim. You know, it's $1 an entry, and max is 150. So you're spending $150 into maxing out a contest to win like $5,000, $10,000. So I'll play tournaments, but my process, as you asked me, I get so excited about this stuff. I go on tangents and I long-winded answers there. So as I was telling you, and this is no secret, I've told plenty of people this is, you get to know somebody and, you can trust them and whatever. What I do is, as I was saying, is I'll enter contests all week. Let's take this Sunday, for example. Sunday, normally they break it down. I have an optimizer in front of me, and I never play the main slates. Looking at it now, main it's 11 games. Right, that's you better off playing the lottery, scratch off tickets, the Powerball, whatever. It's next to impossible to hit. You have to have you have to actually have the perfect lineup to get involved in that. So taking it a step further, I look at the slate, right, and normally, 8 weeks into the season, FanDuel, I don't know what DraftKings does, but FanDuel, they break it down. They do a 4:25 p.m. Eastern express slate. Always 2 games, maybe 3 games. It's fine. 2 games is the sweet spot. So 4:25 express, I'll enter all week, $1, $2. So when Sunday afternoon or morning comes around, let's say 4:00, I have 175 entries. I've spent like $250, $260, and I have, as I've said, 200 and something lineup, or excuse me, 170 something lineups in. So a lot of them, I would say 75% of them are the dollar games, 3-man, 5-man. That's it. No more than $2 an entry.
Yep.
And I use an optimizer. I've taken what I've learned all week. I have my notes here. Everything's highlighted. Everything's tabbed here. I'm like a maniac, like a serial killer with the way I take notes. But so right before a lot comes around, I formulate my best optimized lineup, and I use one lineup in every contest. So you're talking 150 entries. I'm using the same lineup, and I found that that alleviates a ton of stress because I'm not running around on Sunday trying to get in, trying to edit 160, 170 different lines. So I do one exact perfect lineup, and more times than not, all I'm ever trying to do is double my entry fee. So as I was saying, if my entry fee is $200 on a Sunday, if I get back 400, I've doubled my entry fees, and I'm happy as a clam. I cash out, and I use I use 200 for the next week, cash out the profits, and go from there. So what I found, and this process happened playing hockey, NHL DFS, my first love, which I also write about, but we're not in hockey season. So what I do is, I'm losing my train of thought here. I enter, and I go from there. And I found the best success there. If I can I know what I was going to say. If I double my entry fees, I'm good. Sorry to rehash, but more times than not, 3 or 4 times a week, I can set my watch by it. I triple and quadruple my entry fees about 3 or 4 times a week. So you're looking at, if I enter $200 worth of lineups, I'm getting back 800, 1,000, or $1,200 a few times a week. So it's been a very nice, trusted process for about 5 years now. I've averaged a certain amount of winnings and profit a year. I won't divulge that. Like I said, I'm not a money guy. I'm not here to talk like, oh, look at Chris. He wins money. But it's a nice profit. It's basically pays like a part-time job. Half the work. You enter all week, and then you set one lineup, and you get paid back like a part-time job. So it's been a very, very nice run here in terms of figuring out what works for me.
Yeah. And so people are going to say, well, what kind of lineup do I build? And I thought when we talked before this, you made a good point. I mean, put the lineup that you think is the best, right? For that particular, for what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because look, so if we compare what I excuse me, what I'm doing to like a big tournament, it wouldn't make sense. If I had 150 lineups in one tournament, I would be an absolute dummy to just use the same lineup in 150 entries. There's a lot there's a lot at stake with 150 entries in one contest.
Yeah.
If it hits, you win money. If it doesn't, you leave with 0.0 with a goose egg here. And again, the trick that I found is I only have to beat two other people.
Yeah.
Granted, it's 150 times, but it's just me and two other people. And to be honest with you, I am confident enough in my process of money, reading the numbers, crunching the numbers, averages, mix that in with the optimizer that I use. It's hard to beat me in a 3-man contest. That's even in a 5-man contest.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've cornered what I'm trying to do. And like, as I've said, that's the process I've used for probably 5 years so far.
I think numbers with football are outstanding. Right. I mean, definitely got to go with matchups. I'm for that. But a piece of you sometimes has to look at, so for instance, in week 8, I was convinced on Miami at home because I took a human element. The Rams played Monday. They were going short week. They were going down. And Miami's not a bad defense, but I knew they were going to be low owned for the costs. I took a little bit of the human element in there. So there's nothing wrong with doing that either for players watching.
Absolutely not. And the human element is, I like to think that I'm the human element in my lines.
Yeah.
You're the human element in your lines. And I hate to say this, but a computer only gets us so far. They are low bottom of the barrel, right? They only count numbers. They see zeros and ones and X's, and that's all they do. And it's up to us to sprinkle in a little bit of, our attitudes, I don't want to say relationships, but the way we see our process and how we see a player in what matchup, and we run with it that way. So the human element is huge. And to specify human element, I always throw one guy in my lineups, all 100 and something of them, that I personally want, right?
Yeah.
I'll add one or two guys in the optimizer, and this guy is going to be in all my lines regardless. So I'm going to either sink or swim with said guy. This week it's James Conner, just to give you a little hint, little trick of the trade there.
Yeah. I feel like FanDuel, I have noticed, I feel like I can build lineups not easier, but maybe use the word more comfortable, if that makes any sense. I feel like I can fit guys in. It's maybe more touchdown dependent, but I do like it. I'm starting to really like it more than DraftKings.
Oh, absolutely. As I was saying, in my trading a few years, so I started because I've always played just on FanDuel. I've dabbled in DraftKings. It's just not for me. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it as much as FanDuel. And again, that's a big deal for me too. If we're not enjoying ourselves and we're not having fun, what's the point?
Yep.
In all my DFS articles, I mean, I don't just say that. I don't just say, well, if you have a problem with gambling, call that. Like, I actually mean it. If you're spending your rent or your whole paycheck, and you're not eating, and you're, to play DFS lines, then, there's something else going on here. But in terms of what site you like to play on, it's personal preference. I know a whole heck of a lot of guys that double dip. They play on FanDuel and they play on DraftKings. And to me, I like just the one site, and that's FanDuel. I can hone in. I see the prices fluctuate. I don't even, if let's say there was a game tonight, and just for example, in front of me, Kyler Murray, Arizona's quarterback. He plays this weekend at home against Miami. He's $8,600 on FanDuel. I wouldn't even really need to go on FanDuel Monday or Tuesday after the game to know if his price has gone up a couple $100 or if it's gone down a couple $100 based on his performance there. So I just feel super tuned in and in sync with FanDuel. So that's the site that I will use and will continue to use for the length of my DFS playing career, if you will.
Yeah, I want to, I've been trying to tell people, play the games you're good at. and
Yeah.
enter the free games. You know, I've been playing these Madden streams on DraftKings. They do Madden streams. They don't cost anything. Even if you win a dime, I mean, play those. I entered a dime tiers last Sunday, and if Bourne would have scored a touchdown at the end of the game, I would have won $100 free. It was
Isn't
a
that
dime. I had Wilson, Metcalf, Dallas. I had the whole thing covered. So did a lot of other people, but play the games that you're comfortable with. And also, I got in this thing with cash games where I had to play 3 running backs all the time, and I was jamming 3 in, and I was sucking.
The rest of your lineup was suffering. I get that.
But that's how I was reading how to do it. And then I said, you know what? I don't have to do that. You know, why not just make a lineup? Yeah. Why not do what I want to do?
The way you want to make it.
Yeah.
And I was on a podcast yesterday. It was recorded in the evening, a guy in Oregon, right? And he asked me a question that where do you normally spend up on a player? And, you know, what you said about always trying to jam in 3 running backs, kind of the bells went off in my head. It's different week to week. If you look at what's going on this weekend, you know, I want all running backs in my roster. But next week it might be as many wide receivers as I can fit in. But you got Dalvin Cook playing Detroit, Derrick Henry playing Chicago, and again, as I said, James Conner in Dallas. Those 3 guys are going to be in every lineup that I can make this weekend.
Yeah.
And again, it's different. It's different week to week. So there's nothing is set in stone about how you have to build a lineup. The human element, as you were talking about, it's up to me as the DFS player to judge that, you know, week to week, matchup to matchup.
Yeah. Your lineup has to tell a story, doesn't it? I mean, if you're going to, like in a tournament, you have to, with conviction, when you make a tournament lineup, when you play Russell Wilson, you have to tell yourself, if I'm going to win,
he's going to throw 5 touchdowns.
You have to think that, right? And you can't. Yeah.
There's a difference. Sorry to cut you off. You know, years ago, I'm sure you've heard people that will watch this have heard, people always ask me, do you have a cash line or a tournament line? And I'll be honest with you, a few years ago, I had no idea what the difference is. I've never built a lineup based on cash or tournament. To come to find out, every lineup I was building was crazy off the wall. So it would be better suited in a tournament or a GPP, as they put it. But cash, it's all supposed to be like, you know, safe guys, you know, high floor kind of guys. Nobody that's crazy, no boom or bust guys, right? And when you build a big GPP lineup and telling a story, as you were saying, you have to take risks in certain spots. That's the only way you're going to differentiate your team from the 100,000 other people that are in the same contest here. And one thing that's held true over all these years, every big money winning tournament that I've ever seen, it always has the number 1 overall scoring defense for that week. The DST portion of your lineup is more important than people think, and I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, because if you get a 0, I mean, Miami had 23 points. If you can get a 0. Chris, I took Dalvin Cook out of my lineup Sunday
last week. Yeah. So, before you tell me why, I want to tell you that what I think. Well, I'll be like a therapist here. It sounds like a case of maybe overthinking and over tinkering. I know that's a big problem with people, especially Sunday morning into afternoon. You know, it's like 12:30, 12:45. If you're like me, you know, I try and go. I'm in Michigan, so I go north of Detroit. So this time of the year, I'm outside doing yard work in the morning, so I can watch the Lions at 1:00. So when I come back in from doing leaps or cutting the grass, whatever, it's like 20-1. 1:45. I wash up, take a shower. I'm in the bathroom. I'm sitting on the pot. I'll just pull my phone out and, you know, tinker. I've had Dalvin Cook in my lineup since Monday, but here it is, you know, 15 minutes to lock. And I feel like I'm missing out on something. I feel like I'm going to be smarter than everybody else, you know, on FanDuel. So you can tinker too much and it winds up hurting you overall.
Yeah. It's a good lesson. You know, what can you do? I really like what you said, because I think that there's not a right way to do this, but there's a smart way to do it too. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like the word dart throws because I mean, don't start a 3,000. Well, this is DraftKings. Minimum salary tight end on FanDuel because you want to squeeze someone else in, but you have
Yeah.
to think he's going to play well, right?
No doubt. Yeah. No, I love that you said that. To me, a dart throw is for seasonal formats. Like in the later rounds of a seasonal draft, that's when you take a dart throw. You're in the 17th, 18th round, depending on how many teams or what the format of the league is. That's when you throw a dart because you can, if he doesn't perform after a few weeks, you can cut him. You can add another guy. A dart throw, to me, is always left suited for seasonal leagues. In DFS, there should really be no dart throws because you're in control. You can have any guy under the sun that you want in your lineup. So why would you just say, well, I'm going to throw a dart and hopefully this guy hits for me? We have everything that we could ask for in terms of numbers and research at the tip of our hands with our phone or our computer. We can look up so many different averages, so many different stats compared to the pricing on both sites. So a dart throw in DFS is just it's irresponsible to me, if you ask me. It's just not.
Yeah,
it's not.
I agree with you. I was thinking about this last week. Do you think sometimes the price of a player scares someone? What I mean by that, you have to, with running backs, I've noticed the last few weeks when when a certain running back's hurt and his backup's in there, but you see the cost at 5,600. Do you think that sometimes scares people away where, oh, that running back's cheap? It makes you think he's not as good, but who cares?
No
18
doubt.
to 20 touches, like Damian Harris from the Patriots last week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Patriots fan. I knew he was going to get 18 to 20 touches. I mean,
Yeah.
He was 4,600 on FanDuel.
You can't beat it, right?
Yeah.
And so what my initial thought to that one is, when you look at FanDuel pricing or DraftKings pricing, I'd like to think that they're smarter than us. These guys are priced there for a reason. And let's say after, Sunday night football is on, the 1 o'clock games, the 4 o'clock games, they're done, they're over, they're settled. You got your money, you're good. And they more times than not, Sunday evening, right before I go to bed to start my, the following week, they have Sunday main 6 days away, it's already up and those prices are already done. They're set in stone. So if you look at a guy like, let's just take rookie Clyde Edwards-Helaire in Kansas City, he's $7,000 on FanDuel. He was $7,000 a week ago when Maine broke. They don't change. It's not like the Vegas over-unders or prop betting. The lines don't change. They don't shift. Some people think, well, I want to get in as many lines as I can Sunday or Monday before they change the prices. FanDuel and DraftKings, they don't change the prices. Can you imagine how crazy that would be? It would screw up everything. And prices, the cheap prices, they don't scare me. They do the opposite. They excite me. Because we're getting to know each other now. And as I've said, I write that bottom of the barrel article. It's the lowest of the low guys, pricing wise, that we can fit in our lineups to go with a guy as like Cook or Henry or James Conner this week. Those $5,000 running backs who we think can hit, like DJ Dallas in Seattle last weekend or Hasty in San Francisco, combined for 3 touchdowns. And they were like, I believe, $4,900 for one guy. DJ Dallas was $4,500. So the low pricing doesn't scare me. It's the guys that are high priced, like take Lamar Jackson, for instance, in Baltimore. They're stud dynamo quarterback, or so we thought. He's $8,100 on FanDuel this week, and looking at my notes, he's $6,900 on DraftKings. Well, he hasn't really put up the points or the yardage that he did last season when he was MVP. So does that kind of pricing for Lamar Jackson, $8,100 on FanDuel, really warrant the product that we're getting on the field? So to me, the low prices excite me, and it's the most expensive players' prices that really freak me out. Because if you roster a quarterback like him, or he's $8,000, $8,100, as I've said, and he lays an egg and he puts up 5 or 6 points, you've already hindered your team with such a high priced player. And at that price, there's little to no room for error there. Guys got to hit value or you won't have a chance to win any money here. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I rolled with Russ because last week I said there's
Yeah.
no chance. And you know what's so I was going to tell you, you know what's interesting? I try to tell people to watch a lot of games because Garoppolo, I watched a Garoppolo game against the Pats. Now they killed the Patriots, but I didn't think he played well in that game. So I wasn't thinking, well, just because Seattle's 32nd against the pass, I don't really think he's a great quarterback. So I'm not going to go and play him against Seattle. That's been the thing to do is that sometimes don't get, if someone's 32nd against something all the time, but he stinks, maybe not play that guy. I think we get locked into sometimes we got to play no matter who it is against that bad defense.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Matchup has everything to do with
It does, yeah.
DFS. Like, I mean, that's what I'm really looking to do. I'm looking for green, 32nd, 31st, those green colored matchups, and they play a huge role in what I do. But in today's day and age of the NFL, there's a half dozen teams, maybe even 8 to 10 teams are in official matchups a week. So you take the handful of those guys that are in good matchups, and then you break it down from there. So everything that we do here with DFS is a process, and it's mind-boggling how deep and how crazy you can get with your research and everything. So to answer your question, yes, absolutely, is because, as I said, half the teams in the league have plus matchups on a week. So I wouldn't granted with you. Russ has absolutely fantastic this season. And when you see a matchup like he had, you think, oh, I can roster him, and his floor is 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then we get, right in our face. We get punched right in the face by, non-performance on the field.
Going back to the pricing, sometimes a price can entice you because I think Elliott is 6,600.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be the lowest realistically, he might never be that. But if it's not a good matchup, and I use the word conviction, if you don't play the guy because he's 6,600, play him because you think, you know what, I like Dallas this week, and I think he'll have 100 yards. You can't just play him because of the price, right? Don't get locked.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought him up because you said $6,600 on DraftKings. I would play him in a heartbeat on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, he's $8,000.
Yeah,
I'm not going anywhere near Zeke Elliott when he's that price.
Yep.
And then the follow-up question will be, well, at what price would you feel comfortable playing Zeke? And I would say, $6,800. Well, here's the thing. He's never going to be that cheap. So that means, well, I guess I'm just never going to play Zeke, right? Because I'm not willing to spend up for the price. And more importantly, specifically for Zeke Elliott, that whole Dallas team is in shambles. They look awful. They're, Andy Dalton's on IR, and Zeke has not looked right. And for that amount of price, for how much he cost, I'm ending up, I could easily just grab a guy, his backup, like Tony Pollard, who is $5,000 cheaper, and he might get the same amount, if not more work than that. So everything, again, is just, a process, writing things down, figuring it out, right? So price doesn't always mean everything.
For beginners, if they're playing with $20, do you believe in that rule, the 80-20 rule, where you play 80% cash? I know you do your own thing, but if people want to play tournaments, they should, if they want to dabble in it, they have $20, they should probably spend $15 to $16 on some safe.
Yeah, like
right?
double ups or they're double ups where if there's 100 people in the contest, the top 50, double their money. And so to be fair with you, and I'm not trying to be rude to you or anybody else, who's a beginner, I've never played that way. Even when I was 8 years ago, 9 years ago, like there wasn't a ton of information, so by the time all this 80-20 rule or the beginners contest came out, I was already 5-6 years in. So I was past, let's say, trying to figure out how to, you figured it out on your own, kind of like a small child riding a bike or a child trying to read. They have to figure it out on their own in some cases, and like a trial by fire in a way. You're nose to the grindstone, and you just have to find a way to figure it out. If it's something that you're super into doing long term. So yeah, I will never in a million years disparage anybody from playing 80-20 or all 100 on smaller cash games or double ups, things of that nature, right? But I will say, 80 on cash games and double ups, and then as you said, you put 20 on GPPs, and just a way to the cash games are a way to hedge your bets, just in case the GPPs more times than not come through. You still hopefully doubled that $18.
Yeah. How come other companies can't succeed in this?
Excuse me.
Yeah. We had a bit of a delay there.
Well, that's a fantastic. Okay, yeah, I had an alarm that went off on my phone. I totally forgot about it. I apologize for that.
Yeah, I'll let you go in a minute here.
No, we're good. We got all day. So why aren't other companies succeeding? Well, the only other companies that I've seen are they're like kind of like prop betting sites.
Yeah.
Like not to promo, but it's a Monkey Knife Fight is one of them. One of them is Draft Day or Draft Alarms or something along those lines, and they're not picking up any steam because FanDuel and DraftKings are tried and true, right?
Yeah.
They have these huge markets. People dedicate entire podcasts to this stuff. They dedicate entire websites to this stuff, and it's kind of like the new guy at school or the new girl at school. They come in, you have to make like an off the charts good first impression, and then you're in. If you don't, you get thrown to the wolves. And that's what I think is happening to a lot of these other smaller sites, and especially like prop betting, right? Prop betting in the NFL has been around since the 60s or the 70s in Vegas, so prop betting is always prop betting. You don't need to have a little app on your phone. You can go to the big time websites and get all your bets and over-unders in there. So to answer your question, that's just it. FanDuel and DraftKings it's tried and true. People feel comfortable with that. And if somebody is spending their own money, people get even more weird, and they don't want to feel awkward or uncomfortable when they're spending their own money. And again, FanDuel and DraftKings are the head honchos here.
Yeah, I like Super Draft. That's a multiplier.
Super Draft, yeah.
That's pretty cool. And I do the Yahoo free, and you get that free. But Yahoo's kind of the same format, but I'm just not drawn to it. So it really is the marketing, or like you said, I think I've been with DraftKings and FanDuel forever myself. So you just become part of that. It's marketing.
And you get attached, right? Like if you play, there's one seasonal fantasy team I've been a part of since I was a kid. I mean, I'm only in my mid 30s, so we're talking 15, 20 years. You get attached to that thing. That's just the human condition. That's human nature, know? And again, FanDuel was the first DFS website I've ever played. And they don't know who I am, but I'd like to think that I've gone to battle on that website with I've spent so much time, crunching numbers and putting in money and taking money out. I'm very, very much connected with FanDuel. I know it's an odd thing to say, just some inanimate object, but that's where I feel most comfortable there. So I don't really feel like spending my money elsewhere.
So I think before it was FanDuel, it was called Pay the Fan.
Yeah.
I think so I had a broadcast partner named Aaron Goldsmith, who's now he's the voice of the Seattle Mariners. He one day told me about this way to play fantasy sports. And he said, listen, I've been winning all this money. He explained it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing seasonal. I love seasonal, but he got me into this and I was hooked.
Instantly.
Yeah.
So
I remember winning I think I entered some big contests, and Aaron Rodgers is the first quarterback to win me some money. I stacked him. And then it was Russell Wilson and Doug Baldwin on a Sunday night game against New England, where I played Russell Wilson against the Patriots. I didn't care. I ran it back with Edelman. It was when the Sunday nights used to be part of the main slate, and no one would. I figured out no one would play the late games because they didn't want to wait.
Yep, that's a good strategy to have now.
Yeah,
But
it's interesting, like I remember before just getting the introduction to this. Like, do you remember that? Just being like, were you just instantly hooked like I was?
Absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned Aaron Rodgers was the first, quarterback that you played that won you money. The first big money I won was it was $5,000 I won
Wow.
on a dollar entry. It was baseball. It
Nice.
was I beat out I still have the screenshot somewhere in an old phone. I beat out 14,742 other people, and Felix Hernandez was the starting pitcher for Seattle, and he propelled me to that $5,000 win, and I was hooked right away. I've always found I have more success. Hockey is my best DFS sport. Then it's baseball, and then people are surprised when I tell them that football's not even really one of my
Yeah.
main DFS cash sources. It's always been hockey and baseball. Because football is so, you don't know who's going to go off for 3 touchdowns and 200 yards. But when you get to like hockey and baseball, those sports, those guys normally tend to stay to their averages. If they score, 2 goals a game and having it, like, they normally stick to their averages. When it
Yeah.
comes to football, it's a free for all.
Is baseball really just a home run when you feel like when you're filling out lineups? I mean, you're just looking for home run. I know with those showdowns, I
Yeah.
had Mookie Betts in the
Mhm.
captain spot in a showdown in the World Series, and he was the only player that did anything, and I still cashed. And
Yeah.
that was it. Yeah.
Me too. I believe that was game 4 or 5. Tampa Bay didn't even score a run. So
Yeah.
everybody in their lineup had 0.0. But when it comes to baseball, there's a lot there. Home runs are the most points. I mean, I'm sure you know this, everything counts for points now for,
Yeah.
a single, a double, a triple, things like that. Stolen bases are huge. So it depends. If I'm going to fill out my roster based on home runs, it's going to be, excuse me, it's going to be Trout, Bellinger, and Ronald Acuna. Well, if you spend up on those 3, you don't have a lot of your others. Look for it that can get me steals, like Ozzie Albies, let's say, or things of that nature. So it's just a whole nother can of worms when we get into baseball DFS.
Yeah. Hey, we'll do that again. I like what you said at the beginning because I feel the same way. I like that this brought us together. And now we're friendly. Now we're going to be colleagues, and this is what's great about all of this.
That's that's in the opening of the show. I said money has never been my motivator.
Yeah.
Helping others and meeting new people and having good conversations with like-minded individuals like yourself is first and foremost on my list of why I do this. So yeah, well, we're definitely going to have to get together again. We could talk for 2 hours. I feel like,
Yeah.
until the sun goes down, and I'd be more than happy with it.